Hello class, this is our video presentation on John Owens on his book, The Mortification of Sin.
Yeah, John Owen's one of the most beloved Puritans of that era. He lived in the 17th century from 1616 to 1683 and was born near Oxford area. Staunch Calvinist, he's often seen as one of the second highest teachers next to Calvin of that era. And he wrote heavily about original sin, predestination, irresistible grace, the atonement and salvation, all these things to kind of prove Arminianism wrong. He was very studious as a Puritan scholar. From the age of 12, it was said that he studied up to 18 to 20 hours a day, which I study maybe 2. So he attended Queen's College also at the age of 18 and studied a lot of subjects there. He did math, philosophy, theology, Hebrew, and rabbinical studies. That was all at the age of 12. He studied all those courses. The writings he held many academic writings and positions, some of which he became the Dean of Christ Church in 1651, and he was the Vice Chancellor of Oxford University soon after that, and he was granted a doctorate in Divinity of Christ, or Doctorate of Divinity by Christ Church University.
So he was a preacher and he wrote. At the age of 26, he began a 41-year spree of just writing. In this time, he produced over 80 books, and he actually didn't really find really a faith in Christ until he went to church service, that he lacked this personal faith in Christ until God directed him to a church service in 1642. And so that's about John Owen's life. So now we're going to go into the Mortification of Sin, the book. And the overall thesis of the book is all based on Romans 8:13, that if by the Spirit you put to death the deeds of the body, then you will have life. So this book covers a vast majority of all different kinds of topics under this category of mortification of sin in our lives. And so it goes from why sin needs to be mortified, to the Spirit's work in mortification, to what mortification is and what it is not. That mortification of sin can only be done in the believer. And then he also kind of ends with why sin is dangerous, why we need to have humility in this process, and ultimately how Christ can work through us in this process of mortification.
Final exam ready questions are as follows. We'll give you the question and then I'll also give you the answer. So first one is, what is John Owen's definition of mortification of sin? And quite simply put, mortification is killing, and the killing of sin in our bodies. Our sin needs to be put to death. We need to be putting to death the deeds of our bodies, just like we talked about his thesis a little earlier, the whole book. And that's his definition of mortification of sin. And the next question number 2, what is mortification described as, / what is it not? So mortification is the constant weakening of lust, always fighting against sin, and having a degree of success in this battle against sin. What it is not to utterly root out and destroy it. It is to not change some outward aspects of our sin and just kind of substitute it. And it is not diverting sin, and it's not just some occasional victories over sin. So that's the answer for question 2. Our third question, what doctrine did John Owens hold in high regard, and what work of his displayed this? And this is an easy one for if you know anything about John Owens. He was held high regard in Calvinism. That was his favorite doctrine, and the work he displayed his view of that in was in a display of Arminianism, where he tore Arminianism to shreds. Question number 4.
So this question is, how long did it take John Owens to gain assurance of his faith, and how was this accomplished? So John Owens, when he was 26 years old before he gained this personal assurance of his faith. He went to go see a friend who was a prominent preacher, and the preacher actually didn't, it was a miscommunication and he didn't show up. But this substitute preacher preached on why are you fearful, O ye of little faith? And so our last question, question 5, is seen as the second best teacher since Calvin, how many works did he produce and under what categories? And John Owens produced over 80 books. We don't have an exact number, but over 80 books ranging from doctrinal to practical to controversial books.